The bell rang, followed by the clang of doors closing. In 5 minutes, the lights will be turned off. This has been happening day after day for the past 30 days. This place is so depressing. Those who have committed crimes against society are sent here. I think I'm just as guilty as everyone else, but that's not why they put me here. I'm here because I saved something dear to me. Perhaps if I start from the beginning and explain everything, you will understand why I had to do this. First, a little about me. My name is Tom Collins. I am about 175 centimeters tall and weigh about 82 kilograms. It's mostly muscle built on the farm. I'm dark from days spent hauling hay and a little Indian blood. I was born and raised in the small town of Collinsville. I lived on a farm in the middle of the countryside. My childhood was spent working on the farm, watching the TV show The Dukes of Hazzard, and secretly falling in love with Daisy Duke and her short shorts. I thought the South was always right, and there was a Confederate flag hanging above my bed. School was fun. There were only about 200 people in our class. I was never into sports, but I loved spending time in the woods, hunting, fishing, and the like. I loved fast cars and even faster girls, that is, excuse me, girls. I studied well and graduated from one of the best schools. I stayed at home for a while, trying to decide what I wanted to do with my life. Somewhere in the back of my mind, I was thinking about going to college to try to achieve something. I talked to one of my high school counselors, and he helped me apply to a college up north in a big city. My family threw me a farewell party, and half the neighborhood was invited, since we were all related to one degree or another. The party went great. Everyone wished me good luck and told me to reach out if I ever needed help. We weren't particularly close, but you could always rely on them. College turned out to be a completely different world. I felt lost and alien. To most of the students, I was a redneck, and I was proud of it. I had only a few friends, mostly other village kids who came for education and then returned home. One of them is a girl named Robin. We quickly became friends and became study partners. When other students made fun of me, Robin always came to my defense. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen, slender, with golden hair and the greenest eyes imaginable. I fell in love with her at first sight, and it seems she reciprocated. She often said that I was a gentleman because my father taught me to respect women and say, "Yes, madam," or "No, madam." We quickly became a couple and started dating. In the summer between third and fourth year, she went home with me to meet my family. During a picnic at one of my favorite places, I proposed to her, and she said yes. We returned home to tell my parents about our engagement. They gathered the whole family, and Robin called her parents to tell them the news and invite them to the engagement party my parents were throwing. The party was wonderful. Everyone came to congratulate us and ask about the wedding date. We have not appointed it yet, but we were able to say that it will take place after graduation. During the holiday, Robin and I snuck away to the hayloft. She laughed and said that she was wondering when I would take her there. We had already admitted to each other that we weren't virgins. I told her that the first time it happened was in the hayloft, and admitted that I was there later with several other girls. I knew she had many more partners than me, but it didn't matter because I loved her with all my heart. I wanted to spend my whole life with her and take care of her. I took her in my arms and confessed my undying love, promising to be faithful and never to hurt her. She also swore that from now on, I would be the only man in her life. I looked into her eyes and saw love and passion in them. When I kissed her, the feeling was so strong that it seemed as if it was tearing my heart out of my chest. My heart was pounding so loudly that the sound seemed to rupture my eardrums. I pulled away and tore off her clothes. She looked gorgeous standing under the sun's rays. God, what a woman! She was beautiful, her figure was mesmerizing, and her gaze sparkled with tenderness and passion. We both couldn't hide our feelings for each other anymore. The words of her request sounded like music, penetrating into the very soul. I took off my shirt and approached her. We found ourselves on soft, fresh hay. Our embrace became stronger and stronger. I held her close to me, feeling her warmth and feeling our hearts beating in unison. "Tommy, I love you," she whispered quietly, and I answered her with the same words. Our bodies moved in the rhythm of passion, and we were lost in this moment, completely surrendering to each other. Later, when we had both caught our breath, I pulled her close to me, whispering words of gratitude for this special moment. We knew it was time to return to the party before someone started looking for us, but for some time we could not separate our hands, enjoying the closeness. I put on my pants and went downstairs to grab some towels from the room where we kept the milking equipment. We cleaned ourselves up and were able to enter the house through the back door unnoticed. A few minutes later, we walked out the front door as if nothing had happened. Everything would have gone perfectly if it weren't for my cousin Sarah. She asked Robin if I had already shown her the farm and the view from the hayloft. Robin blushed and Sarah laughed. "I see you have already been there. Don't worry, your secret is safe." Robin blushed again, and we went to look for her parents. Her parents were looking for her to tell her they were ready to return to the city. Robin planned to spend the night with them in a motel and take them to the airport in the morning. I hugged her mother, shook her father's hand, thanked them for visiting, and told them I would see them again soon. I took Robin into my arms, kissed her, and told her I would see her tomorrow. Soon everyone left except my parents, my younger sister, and me. I was sitting on a swing on the veranda when my father came and sat next to me. "Son, Robin is a wonderful girl, and I know that you love each other. I just hope it's enough to keep your marriage strong for years to come." I asked him what he meant. "You and Robin are from different worlds," he said. "She's used to social parties and educated people, and you're used to village picnics and barbecues in the yard. I just hope your differences never become an issue in your marriage." He got up and went into the house. A few seconds later, Sally Joe pulled up. Sally was my first love, a beautiful brunette. We spent a lot of time in that same hayloft, enjoying each other. She didn't want to go to college or leave our town. She was now studying at a local beauty school and working in a hair salon in the city. "I heard you ask this city girl to marry you, Tommy." "Why, when you could have me at any time and in any way?" she asked. "Sally, I care about you, and I would be lying if I said I didn't love you. But the thing is, I want more than this little farm in town, and I really love Robin," I replied. "Does she have a body like that?" she asked, unbuttoning her blouse and shorts, exposing her private areas. I couldn't help but react to her appearance. For any other man, Sally would have been ideal, but I wanted Robin. The sex we had with Robin a few hours ago was so hot. I knew that she was my destiny, but I couldn't take my eyes off that gorgeous body in front of me. Sally's eyes, dark and inviting, literally burned through my soul. It was incredibly difficult to tell her no. Sally straightened her clothes and headed to her car. "I'll be waiting for you, Tom Collins. When you're ready, I'll be here waiting for you," she said, got into the car, and drove away. That night, I couldn't sleep for a long time. My father's words couldn't leave my mind, and the conversation with Sally also haunted me. I finally dozed off, and Robin woke me up in the morning. The next few days flew by quickly: walks, picnics, and then we were back at college. We decided to rent an apartment together to save money for the wedding. Both worked part-time, and Robin sometimes stayed late at night. The days in college were fun, but the nights were even better. We made love almost every night. We spent one weekend without getting out of bed. "Tommy, honey, what happened? You look so thoughtful, as if you were far, far away from here." I told her that I was feeling depressed, but I didn't yet understand what was wrong. "I love you so much and am proud to have you in my life. I know you may feel uncomfortable at times. You may think you don't fit into my life, but I will always love you. And by the way, leave next weekend free. My parents are throwing a party at the club. There will be a lot of my friends there, and you will be able to meet them, as well as people from Dad's company. So we might need to go shopping and pick out some new clothes for you this week. Okay, Tommy?" The week went by quickly. I had 3 tests and spent a lot of time preparing. But I did well in my studies. I already had a job waiting for me at an accounting firm when I graduated from university. The owner of the company was an army friend of my uncle. They served together in Vietnam and became close friends. I started from the lowest position and was going to climb the career ladder. I wouldn't want it any other way. I was ready to take on the challenge. Robin worked part-time as a junior vice president at her father's marketing company, so we could count on a nice apartment here in Chicago. On Friday, both of our classes ended at noon, and we went to the suburbs to her house. Wow, what a place! Huge house with tennis court and pool in the backyard. I was shocked, even though Robin said her parents had money. I just didn't realize they were so rich. She took me to meet her parents while someone carried our things to our rooms. At least our rooms were down the hall from each other. Robin was wonderful. She made sure I didn't feel out of place or out of place, and we had fun playing and swimming in the pool. I liked her parents, although I had a feeling they thought Robin was making a mistake marrying a redneck like me. Later that evening, Robin quietly entered my room. We hugged, and an intimacy arose between us, which was filled with tenderness and warmth. Her look, full of trust and emotion, said more than words could. We enjoyed a moment that belonged only to the two of us. I felt the connection between us growing stronger and every minute becoming precious. Robin kissed me on the cheek, smiling, and then, as if wanting to remember this moment, she slowly stood up and returned to her room. I lay in the dark, feeling the warmth of her touch and realizing how important this moment of intimacy was for me. I soon fell asleep with a feeling of complete peace and happiness. Tommy, Mom, and I are going shopping to buy a few things for the party tonight. Do you need to bring anything? I heard Robin's voice in the morning. I quickly went over what was in my suitcase. Robin, please buy me a pair of new black socks, okay? I heard her shout, okay, as she walked out the door. Tommy, do you mind if we talk a little? A voice rang out as I entered the living room where Mr. Dawson was standing. I began to suspect that Robin and her mother's shopping trip was an excuse so that her father could talk to me. Tommy, Robin's mom, and I think you're a good guy. However, to be honest, you are not exactly who we hope to see next to our daughter. When Robin graduates, she will work for me full-time as a vice president, and with her experience, I hope to one day lead the company. I know, Mr. Dawson, Robin and I have talked about this, and I'm not going to stand in her way. But you should know that we both want a family and have decided that our marriage and family will be our priority. There was silence in the room for what seemed like an eternity. Tommy, she will have to travel a lot, attend social events and meetings without you. This can be very difficult in a marriage. I thought for a few minutes. Mr. Dawson, I love your daughter very much. To be honest, I already had a similar conversation with my father. I told him that I loved Robin more than anything in the world and that I was going to dedicate my life to making her happy. And she feels the same about me. I understand that we are from different worlds, but it doesn't matter to me. I love her. I have a job too, and although I'm starting at the lowest position, I plan to work hard and work my way up. My father always said, "Work honestly and hard, and you will succeed in anything you do." At this point, we heard the women return and Mr. Dawson thank me for my time. The rest of the day flew by, and then we were on our way to the party, me with Robin on my arm. She looked gorgeous, with the neckline of her elegant black dress revealing plenty of cleavage and her back bared to the waist. When we walked in with her parents, all eyes turned to us. Most men looked at me enviously and lustfully at Robin. Robin, take Tommy, introduce him to everyone. I want you both to come back here later. I have an announcement and I want you to hear it, her father said. Tommy, let's go. I'll introduce you to my friends and the employees of Dad's company, Robin said cheerfully, pulling me along with her. In a few hours, I met all her friends and colleagues. I spoke with the HR manager and his wife, and after our conversation, he even offered me a job. I said that I already had a job, naming the company where I would start working. I explained that I would start at the lowest position, but was aiming for an account manager position. Then we approached a group of 3 men who were a little older than us. Robin said they are part of the team she will be working with. Jim, the eldest, was preparing for the wedding. Then Mark, an Englishman, about 180 cm tall, looked like a professional athlete. I couldn't help but look at Mark. It was the first time I had met a black Englishman. In our native land, there were few blacks at all. The last one was Bud, blonde, blue-eyed, and looked like a surfer. We left them and continued our walk, ending at the bar. Tommy, darling, I see an old friend there. Do you mind if I talk to her for a few minutes? Robin left me at the bar. If before this I felt a little out of place, now I was completely lost. Without Robin, I felt like no one even noticed I was there among the crowd of Armani suits and evening dresses with names I couldn't pronounce. I felt terrible. She left for 10-15 minutes, and I couldn't find her with my eyes. I stood there in my JC suit, Penny feeling completely out of place. "Hey, buddy, you look lost. Can I get you something to drink?" asked the bartender. "Yes, please give me." "Well, just something. I have something special from my personal stash. Would a bottle of beer be okay?" I turned around and saw him taking a couple of bottles out of the refrigerator behind the bar. "I'll pour it into a glass so you don't look out of place. My name is Luke." Luke and I had a couple of beers, and I found out he was from Texas when Robin's dad came up to me. "Have you seen Robin? We need both of you here now." "I've been looking for her for about 45 minutes now," he said impatiently. I looked at my watch and realized that she had been gone for over an hour. I told him that I would help him look for her. I took one lap around the dance floor, realizing that Robin hadn't even bothered to dance with me. I eventually made it to the back of the club where I found a hallway leading to the restrooms. As soon as I turned into this corridor, I saw Bud standing there, and behind him, coming around the corner, Robin. "Robin, where have you been? Your father has been looking for you everywhere." She looked like a deer caught in the headlights of a car. I was in the toilet. At that moment, Mark pushed past her, and I noticed how she blushed slightly. "We'll talk about this later. Your father wants to see you right now," I said, grabbing her hand and dragging her through the crowd to the bar where her father was standing. "Please pay attention. I ask for your attention." He began to speak into the microphone. "As you all know, today we have with us a young man who is dating Robin. But what you don't know is that he proposed to her and she said yes." Everyone started applauding. "Something else I want to tell my daughter and future son-in-law is, you have our blessing. We are happy that Tommy is becoming part of our family. I'm sure they will be very happy together. For Tommy and Robin, may they be as happy as her mother and I have been over the years." Mr. Dawson looked at his wife with a smile. "Now you two, go and dance." I took Robin's hand and led her to the dance floor. Being close to her at that moment was not my desire. I wanted answers. I needed to know where she was and what she was doing, but I knew I would have to wait to ask those questions. However, after 3 dances with her, my anger began to subside. I always knew it was hard for me to stay angry at Robin for long, and she knew it too. After the 4th dance, we returned to her parents' table. Robin's father told me that he was wrong about me, and that I was exactly the kind of person his daughter needed, someone who could keep her in line, be strong, and do what was right for his family. Then he raised a toast to our happy future. Later, when we returned home and went to bed, thoughts were running through my head about what happened at the club. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. However, I decided to postpone the conversation until the next morning. I turned to look at Robin. Standing over her shoulder were Bud and Mark with another couple. I politely excused myself and headed to the toilet. As I walked by, I asked if I could give them a minute. The couple said they were just leaving and headed towards the door. "Listen, you two, if I ever see you alone with Robin again, I'm going to give you a beating like you've never received in your life. You can consider this an official warning," I said. "You have been warned. I'm not responsible for what happens next time." After that, I slowly headed to the toilet. I did not know that Mr. Dawson witnessed the entire incident. When I returned to the table, he was just telling the women that it was time to leave. I threw her cape over Robin's shoulders and we headed home. I decided that I would talk to Robin tomorrow on the way back to college, and that night I would try to just get some sleep. I said goodbye to her for the night and was just starting to fall asleep when Robin quietly came into my room. "Tommy, are you awake?" she whispered. I lay on my side, facing away from her, hoping she would think I was asleep and go back to her room. Instead, she crawled into bed with me and reached for my groin. I grabbed her hand and held her. "No, we need to talk. I want to know what happened tonight when I saw you with them." "Nothing, Tommy. I talked for a long time with my friend. Then I went to the toilet, and on the way Bud and Mark followed me to talk. I swear nothing happened, honey, nothing at all. I love you. And now that Mom and Dad have blessed us, I will never do anything to hurt you." She moved closer to me again, touching me gently, which made me feel confused. There was something subtly attractive in her actions. I rolled over onto my back to let her feel my willingness to support her closeness. "Do you swear that nothing happened?" "I swear," she said, her voice sounding confident. I reminded her that if she ever cheated on me, it would be the end for us. "I know," she answered quietly, her touches becoming more intimate and insistent. I tried to control my emotions, but I couldn't completely ignore the feelings she evoked. She continued to talk to me, and I began to realize that her words meant much more than just a game. It was clear that she was trying to make me want to go further, but at the same time she was persistently reminding me of the consequences. I understood that she wanted to prove her love and was ready to go to the end, which frightened and attracted me at the same time. Everything was happening too quickly, and I realized that I was faced with a difficult choice. She suddenly froze, looking into my eyes, and said, "Tommy, you want me, don't you? We can be together, and I'm ready for anything, even starting a new chapter in our lives right now." I tried to explain to her that this decision should be balanced, that we should first finish our studies and decide on the future. She seemed to understand, but continued to insist that she had found a new path to happiness together, here and now. In the end, I gave in under the pressure of her determination, but a shadow of doubt remained inside. We spent a night full of tenderness and intimacy. I felt overwhelmed by a wave of contradictions that could not be ignored. On the one hand, it was something extraordinary, a moment that seemed important to both of us. But on the other hand, thoughts about the future, plans, and responsibility did not leave me for a second. When it was all over, we just lay next to each other, hugging each other. She spoke quietly about her dreams, about her family, about what a wonderful father I could become. I listened to her and tried to understand why everything suddenly changed, why she decided to abandon our previous plans. Perhaps life does not always follow the planned scenario, and sometimes we need to go with the flow, allowing our emotions to guide us forward. The next morning, we had brunch with her parents. Robin said she loved me so much that she wanted to get married early. Her mother looked at her and winked. Robin smiled back at her. The drive back to college was quiet, with Robin sleeping the entire way. When we got to the apartment, she admitted that she had taken a 3-month contraceptive pill. On Sunday evening, before school started, we made love softly. The next few weeks were very busy. Sarah arrived in town. She became a flight attendant, and her flight ended up connecting not far from our college. She had a long layover and decided to spend the night with us. Robin had a doctor's appointment and then a meeting with her father. She could graduate this semester, leaving me with one more to double major. "Sarah, you and Tommy have a good time. I have important news for you when I get home," Robin said as she walked out the door. As soon as she left, Sarah wanted to talk. "Tommy, how are you doing?" she asked. "I think everything is fine. It's been tense for a while, and Robin might be pregnant. But overall, all is well. Why are you asking?" "You know, cousin, I could always tell when something was bothering you," she said. "Sarah, I'm not sure Robin is faithful to me. I don't have any proof, it's just a feeling. Tommy, I think it's just pre-wedding feelings. You were the favorite of women, and now you have to tie yourself in marriage. I'm sure Robin is the one. When you get married, many girls at home will be heartbroken. Sarah, how is Sally Joe?" "Tommy, I didn't even mention her. And since you asked, I'll tell you that she met a guy who is currently in boot camp. They are dating, but I know for sure that they have not yet moved on to intimacy. She still loves you, and probably he will always love you. We talked for a long time about home and family, and then began to get ready for bed when Robin returned. She came up to me and took my hands in hers. Tommy, we're pregnant. I suspected this even before the trip to my parents. I told my mom I thought it was true, but I wanted to make sure before I told you. We're having a baby in 6 months. I knew I hadn't had my period, but with the 3-month pill, I shouldn't have had one. Tommy, Robin, I'm so happy for you. You should probably set a wedding date, shouldn't you? Asked Sarah. Looks like you're right, Sarah, I said. I looked at Robin and suggested we get married as soon as possible. I'll call my parents, and you, Robin, call yours. Wait, Tommy Collins. My stomach is already rounding. I want the big church wedding that I've always dreamed of, but it just won't happen before the baby is born. I still want to wait until May. By then, I'll be able to fit into a wedding dress again. The only thing is that the 4 of us will go on our honeymoon. It was already late, and Sarah had to fly out early in the morning. I told Robin that we should get some sleep, and we'll discuss everything else tomorrow. However, I couldn't sleep. I knew that I loved Robin, I wanted a family and children, but time. Yes, time, that word couldn't get out of my head. When exactly did she get pregnant? If she's telling the truth, it must have happened that weekend we spent in bed. But I remember that I already had a strange feeling. Yes, we spent the entire weekend in bed, but that was around the same time she stayed late at work on Wednesday nights, a couple of times. Maybe she's right, and we shouldn't get married until May. We told the parents about the child. Surprisingly, both parties reacted calmly to the idea of waiting until May to get married. Of course, I had heard from my father that I needed to be careful since I had become pregnant with a girl, and that now I had to do the right thing. I promised her parents and my family that we would get married, and I would take care of my wife and child. Robin continued to work on Wednesday evenings until she graduated in December. I was so proud of her. She graduated from the university with honors, combining study, work, and pregnancy. Our sex life was simply incredible. Robin constantly wanted intimacy. She always loved making love to me and often told me how much she loved me. The bigger she got, the sexier she seemed. I was looking forward to our life together, so for Christmas we gave each other a 3-room apartment. Sarah often came to see us when she was between flights. She said that Sally Joe was engaged, but they had not set a wedding date yet. I asked Sarah to tell Sally I was happy for her. Just a few weeks into the spring semester, I received a call during class. I quickly went out into the corridor to answer. It was Robin's mother. She said that Robin had gone into labor. I opened the door to the classroom and told the teacher that I was about to have a baby. I heard the applause of the class, ran out to the car, and rushed to the hospital. About 6 hours later, Susan was born. She looked exactly like her mother. The moment I took her in my arms, I realized that she was definitely mine. I was a proud father. Robin's parents were at the hospital and mine were on their way. The next day, mother and child were able to go home. My parents stayed with us for a few days and Robin's mom joined us when we picked up the baby. It was great to see everyone, but I was already dreaming of being home alone with my family. 6 weeks flew by. The doctor said Robin could return to work whenever he wanted. We discussed this in the evening. Tommy, I want to go back to work. I know you want me to stay home, but I can't. You know that my father expects me to take over his business one day. Robin, I understand, but we have a family. You wanted a child. You said you wanted at least 2. I'll graduate in a month, and in a couple of weeks we're getting married. Then the honeymoon. Don't you want to go somewhere else? I asked. Please, let's enjoy this time together and return to this conversation after the honeymoon when everything has calmed down. Just give us 6 months, honey. Okay, Tommy, I agree, but know that I may be working a little during the day while you are at work and the baby is sleeping. The next 6 months passed quickly. Sarah came a couple of times and said that Sally Joe said hi and wished her luck with the baby and the wedding. I graduated from university, got a job, and was already receiving praise for my abilities. Around this time, a few days before the wedding, I started receiving strange emails. The first was, "Are you still going to marry this prostitute?" Signed, Friend. A couple of days later, another came. "Don't you see the signs? She's been cheating on you for almost a year." Then the letters stopped coming, and I decided that it was just someone's stupid joke, and I put them aside. We were married in a large church with her family, my parents, grandparents, and my husband's in-laws. Sarah and my younger sister were bridesmaids. I had cousins as best men. After the ceremony, there was a big party where I danced with my mom and my new wife. I noticed that some of Robin's colleagues were at the wedding. Jim was among them, but I didn't see his fiancée. Mark and a few others were also there. We left, tossing the bouquet to Sarah, and took the limousine to the apartment to pick up Susan and the nurse who was to accompany us. We took our luggage and hit the road. The flight to the Bahamas was long enough to get some rest. When we arrived, we went through customs and got to our two-room suite. Susan had to sleep in another room so Mom and Dad could enjoy their honeymoon. We spent our days lying on the beach. The men kept looking back at Robin, which made me a little jealous. How else? My wife, the mother of my child, had been walking around the beach topless all day, wearing only her yellow bikini bottoms. "Robin, where was Jim's girlfriend?" I asked. "Tommy, what are you even talking about? We are lying on the beach, and you suddenly ask such a strange question." "I have no idea what you're talking about," she replied. "I saw Jim at our reception. Wasn't he planning to get married?" "Oh, they broke up. Her name was Anna. She couldn't stand his long working hours. She even had the audacity to accuse him of cheating. She claimed to have proof, but Jim begged her to provide it. In the end, she didn't show anything, and now everyone thinks she's a joke." "Tommy, I don't want to burn. Apply cream to me, please. Look how much attention your wife gets. It's good that you're here, otherwise someone else might be trying to apply the cream to me. I got the hint, no talk about the house. All my attention to you, darling. You are my wife, I love and trust you," I said, looking into her eyes. She quickly turned away. "Yes, I am your wife, and I love you. So let's go up to the room, and I'll show you this," she said. We went up to the room, and Robin lay down in the center of the bed, smiling at me. At that moment, I could not refuse her anything, and she knew it. I approached her, and passion flared up between us. It was a moment filled with emotion and desire. We forgot about everything in the world, completely surrendering to the moment. Our feelings covered us completely, and we were together until the last of our strength ran out. I rolled onto my side, hugged her, and kissed her soft lips tenderly. We snuggled up to each other and dozed off. I woke up to find that Robin was gone. I found a note. She went for a walk on the beach. I decided to stay in the room and spend time with Susan to give the nurse a chance to enjoy the beach. I was sitting on the living room couch holding Susan when Robin returned. Since the lights were off and the baby was sleeping, Robin didn't notice me and quietly walked into the bedroom. I turned on the lamp next to me, and she shuddered in surprise. "Tommy, what are you doing here in the dark?" she asked. "Spending time with our daughter, which you've been doing quite a bit lately, Robin." "Where have you been, and why are you wet and covered in sand?" I asked. "Just walking on the water, Tommy. The waves knocked me off my feet, that's all. Look at me now. I'm going to take a bath," she said, heading into the bedroom. I followed her, holding Susan. There was sand on her body and redness was visible on her thighs. "Robin, what happened to you? Did you sleep with someone? Is this why you're covered in sand?" I asked. "What are you doing, Tommy? This is from this morning. Have you already forgotten?" I remembered, but thoughts about emails and Anna began to swirl in my head. All this could be connected. I was sure of this, but I didn't know how exactly. I still loved Robin so much that I couldn't believe she would do anything to ruin our love. I wasn't naive, but I felt like I had to be sure before I did anything stupid. "Tommy, are you even listening to me?" Robin screamed. "Tommy, why don't you put Susan to bed and come into the shower with me? Please, I promise you'll like it," she said. I laid Susan down, took off my clothes, and went into the shower with my wife. She started washing me, touching me all over, and again I couldn't resist. Make love to me, Tommy. I want you so much, she whispered. I knelt down in front of her, examining her carefully. She seemed vulnerable and so trusting. He carefully pulled her towards him and hugged her, feeling her warmth. I wanted to make sure everything was okay, that she felt comfortable. We were in silence, where every moment seemed important, where every touch spoke more than words. Her body relaxed under my palms, she leaned closer, and I felt the connection between us growing. We moved in unison, as if there was a special invisible thread between us. She was there, and I was ready to give her all my care and tenderness. Later, she turned to me and quietly suggested, "Let's stay here tonight and spend our last day on the beach." There was hope in her eyes, and I realized that I wanted this too, just to be close, to enjoy every moment of our time together. "Tommy, finish your shower, and I'll go get our baby and let the nurse leave early. Then we'll order dinner to your room if you're hungry," she said. I was glad she left me alone for a while. I needed to sort out my thoughts. I either had to put all suspicions behind me and focus on our marriage, or we could fall apart. Thinking about us, the sex, and the love I felt for her, I realized that I was going to do anything to save our marriage. No mistrust. I will believe her, support her, and love her. The rest of the honeymoon was great. Robin was amazing, and I enjoyed our time together. But then we returned to real life. A few weeks after returning home, Robin began working part-time. Everything was fine. She came home early every day. We spent the evenings together playing with little Susan. However, her part-time job soon turned into full-time. At least she was still getting home early. At this time, my own career took off. I have proven my abilities to several large companies and managed their accounts. I now had an assistant and several clients who reported to me. Robin was also doing well, but she began to spend more and more time away from me and Susan. There were meetings, then luxurious dinners, which, according to her, I would be too bored to go to. With so much free time, I decided to set up a home office. An IT specialist from work helped me order a computer and equipment so that I could connect to work servers from home. He also helped me install wireless cameras throughout the apartment so I could keep an eye on Susan. Now she was old enough to climb everywhere, and her mother was too busy to look after her. One morning, I was called to a meeting with my boss. "Tommy, I'm so glad your uncle talked me into hiring you. I decided that I wanted to take a vacation and travel. And while I'm gone, I want you to run things here. Are you interested in being a manager?" he asked. "Yes, sure." "Okay, Tommy, we'll move you to this office on Monday. In the meantime, go home and celebrate with your lovely wife." "Certainly, sir. I'm taking her and my cousin Sarah to dinner tonight to celebrate," I said. I had just returned from taking Susan to Robin's parents for the evening when Sarah arrived. I knew she had bad news when she ran into my arms. "Tommy, a Sally Joe man was killed in Iraq by a roadside bomb this morning. Sally is taking it very hard, and I'm flying home tomorrow to be with her. Sarah, give Sally my condolences and tell her that if she needs anything, I will be here." "But Tommy, what about Robin? She may not want you to go to your ex-girlfriend. What if Sally asks you to come over?" she asked. "Sarah, I don't know what to think about Robin anymore. She spends more and more time at parties and meetings away from us. When I suggested going with her, she said, 'You'll be bored and won't fit in with this group. I just got a big promotion, and I was going to celebrate with you too. Robin hasn't even gotten home yet,' I said. 'Tommy, I'll change into something nice, and you call her and tell her,' she said. I called Robin, trying to tell her that I had been promoted to manager. But before I could say 2 words, she interrupted me, saying that she was at an important meeting and would return very late, after which the connection was lost. I was sitting on the sofa when Sarah entered the room. "Tommy, what happened?" she asked. "Robin won't come. She said she was in a meeting, but I heard someone having fun in the background," I replied. "Tommy, look at me. Am I suitable to be your companion this evening?" asked Sarah. "Oh my God, Sarah, you look amazing. I'll be happy to take you with me," I said. We went to a great restaurant, had a great dinner, And then I took Sarah dancing. We had a great time, and I was able to take my mind off my marriage. Sarah was so beautiful. I had to remind myself that we were cousins. We did a few slow dances. She laid her head on my shoulder, and I enjoyed this closeness. Oh, Robin and I still had a great sex life, but I missed that kind of warmth. It was getting late, and I told Sarah that we should go before I forgot that we were related. We stopped by Robin's parents to pick up Susan. "Where's Robin?" asked Mrs. Dawson. I called her. She said she was in an important meeting and would be back late, so I took Sarah to celebrate my promotion, I replied. Mrs. Dawson looked surprised. "There were no meetings this evening. Come in. Grandpa is just holding Susan in his arms." We went into the house and Susan was fast asleep in his arms. We picked her up and went home to put her to bed. Sarah went to bed, and around 2 o'clock in the morning, a very drunk Robin returned home. "Robin, where the hell have you been? I was at your parents' place, and no one knew about any meetings tonight." I found out about this after Dad went home. "Why are you dressed up, Tommy?" she asked. I tried to take my wife and Sarah to a dinner and dance to celebrate my promotion, but my wife had too many important things to do to be with her husband, and now she came home drunk. So what was this meeting like, Robin? A meeting of drunken fun. I'm so angry at you right now. I'm going to take a little vacation and go with Susan to my parents for a few days. When I get back, you'll sober up and we'll talk about our marriage to see if you even need it. Good night. I'll talk to you before I leave tomorrow. That night, I slept on the couch. In the morning, I prepared breakfast and coffee so that it would be ready when the women woke up. Sarah came into the kitchen smiling and kissed me on the cheek. About 30 minutes later, Robin woke up. I placed a cup of coffee in front of her and asked how she was feeling. Then I went into another room to use the phone. I called the office and said that I would be gone for a few days, but that if necessary, I could be reached by cell phone. I then called the airline and Mom and Dad to let them know we were coming. They were very happy because they had not seen Susan for over a year. After that, I went back to the kitchen to talk to Robin. "Robin, how are you feeling today? You don't look good." "Tommy, I'm so sorry. I didn't know about your promotion and couldn't hear what you were saying on the phone because of the noise in the background," she said. "That's the whole point, Robin. You didn't even think about us or care about us. You always put work first. Look at your daughter. Do you know how much you missed? Where were you when she started walking or said her first word? I'll tell you where you were with work friends, doing God knows what." "I know, and I'm so sorry," she replied. "I'm going to visit my mom and dad for a few days. You know, they really didn't spend enough time with Susan. Sarah and I will also visit Sally. Her fiancé was killed in Iraq. I'll be back home sometime on Thursday morning. I'll find a babysitter for Susan and we'll talk. You know I love you, but I'm not the #1 priority in your life anymore. We have great sex, and you always give me everything I want, but you are no longer there for us. While you're gone, I'll make up for everything and become the wife you want, Tommy. You'll see," she said. "I have to get ready for work, but we will definitely talk and everything will change. I swear, Tommy. I love you so much," Robin said. "Robin, I love you too, and so does Susan. She's almost 3 years old, and since you came back full time, you haven't spent enough time with her. Have a nice day. Call me on my cell phone tonight." Robin and Sarah helped me pack Susan's clothes for the trip and then played with her while I packed my own things. Before leaving, I showed Sarah my office. She was impressed and asked what Robin thought about it. I said she was never interested in that. I showed Sarah how security cameras work, how they are activated by movement, and how they record short videos of everything that happens in the house. I explained that you can never be sure what the nanny is doing with the child while you are away, so I periodically check all the rooms of the house in this way. I showed how motion scanning works, and then a taxi pulled up. The flight was great. I guess that's one of the benefits of having your cousin as a flight attendant. Upon arrival, we waited for Sarah, and she took us to my parents, staying for dinner. The next few days passed quickly as Mom, Dad, and I shared news and discussed what was going on in my life. I told them about Robin and how this was a bit of a break for us to not make hasty decisions. I spent one day with Sally and Sarah, just supporting her and hugging her like a friend. Sally told me that I was still her first love and that she still hoped that someday we would be together. I just held her hand and kissed her on the cheek, trying not to give false hope. On the third day of the trip, Sarah received a call. She had been asked to replace another flight attendant and was scheduled to fly back to the city on Wednesday afternoon. I spoke to Robin on the phone every night and missed her so much, so I decided to fly back with Sarah when she said she was leaving on Wednesday morning. I tried to call Robin at home, but only an answering machine answered. Then I called her office. The secretary said Robin would be in meetings all day, but would give her my message. The taxi brought us home around 16 o'clock. I tried calling Robin again several times, but was unsuccessful. We opened the door and the house was quiet. I told Sarah to sit down and I went to make coffee. Susan immediately ran to look for her mother. Several minutes passed and Susan still did not return. I told Sarah that I would go find her. Walking slowly down the corridor towards our bedroom, I heard voices and moans. I opened the door a crack and felt myself vomiting in disgust. Robin had sex with Mark on our bed. I'm no weakling, but I realized I needed proof if I was going to take Susan away from this cheater. I quickly returned to Sarah and told her to pack Susan's things and be ready to leave. Taking my digital camera, I opened the door again and started filming. I heard a sound and looked down. Susan stood at the foot of the bed and said, "It hurts, Mommy, it hurts, Mommy." I continued filming and then grabbed Susan's hand. Robin opened her eyes and saw me leading Susan out of the room. "Get off me, Mark. Tommy is here. He saw everything," she screamed. "Don't worry, baby. I'll take care of this with a rag," Mark said. By then, I had taken Susan out of the room, handed her over to Sarah, and the three of us stood downstairs waiting for a taxi. "Sarah, take Susan and this camera and get out of here. And do not tell me where she is. Now go, I need to go back upstairs and deal with Robin." By the time I was sure the baby was safe, Mark had disappeared and Robin was sitting on the bed crying. "Tommy, I'm so sorry. It was just a fling. He meant nothing to me. It's just part of the job. I love you. Can't we work things out and be a family again, just the three of us?" she sobbed. "No, Robin, the three of us can't be a family anymore. Susan left, and I don't know where she is." "Tommy, you can't do this to me. You can't take my child away from me," she screamed. "She's my child too, and she came here and saw you and Mark acting like a couple of animals, Robin. Your own daughter saw you cheat, and now she's gone forever." I just turned around and went into the living room. Robin stayed in the bedroom crying all night. The next morning she came out and wanted to talk. She asked if I could forgive her and said that it was the first time she had been with someone other than me. The problem was that I didn't trust her anymore. I told her that I had not yet decided whether to get a divorce, but one thing was for sure. She would not see Susan again. I was going to protect my daughter if she was even mine. I saw that look in her eyes, and then she spoke. "Tommy, she is not your daughter. You stole my child. I'll put you in jail," she screamed. That's how I ended up here. For the last 30 days, I've been brought before the judge and asked where Susan is, but I haven't said anything. My boss has visited me and holds a workspace for me, and Sarah has visited me several times, and I'm just sitting here in prison. I have all the time in the world. I don't say anything. I'm still married to Robin, and she still wants to make our relationship work. Tomorrow is the 31st day, and someone from the guardianship authorities will appear in court with new information, but I am still not going to talk. Today, I didn't expect anything to change. They'll bring me back to the judge, they'll ask where Susan is, and I won't say anything, and they'll bring me back again. I wasn't as stupid as they thought. I knew their actions were unusual. I was not accused of anything, and I knew from Sarah that no one in my family was harmed. They knew Robin wanted Susan back, but Robin was afraid of what I might know or say about her family. and this gave me time to decide what to do with our marriage. This day turned out to be different. It all started with a visit from my father and Sarah. They chatted with me for a bit, asked how I was, and then we just talked about nonsense. "Tommy, I know what you're doing, but it's time to end this," the father said. "Tommy, we have a lawyer who wants to talk to you. He was hired to end this and get you out of here." "Who hired him, Dad? I don't want you and your mom or any of the family to interfere. If not you, then who?" "This will explain everything, Tommy," Sarah said, handing me the letter. "Sorry, it's already open, but security should have checked it before giving it to you." I opened the letter and began to read. "Dear Tommy, I hired this lawyer to help you and Susan. I'm scared for you, Tommy. We learned a lot of things that you don't know. Besides, I'm worried about your safety. This man is from Texas. He is one of the best I could find. He is also a close friend of our family. He has a private investigator ready to work on your case. Tommy, please talk to him and let us help you. With love, Sally Joe." Tears welled up in my eyes. How could I be so blind? Here was a woman who loved me and was ready to do anything to protect me, and I rejected all this for what? For the one who lied, cheated, and had sex with another man in my house, in my bed. I told them I would talk to this person and ask them to thank Sally and tell her that I would return all the money when this was all over. Bill Shark was an older man with a kind face and a soft voice. He had known Sally since she was a child and was a close family friend, now semi-retired. He had never met Tommy, but he knew a lot about him. The main thing he knew was that Sally loved him with all her heart. The older gentleman knew that he could help Tommy if he trusted him. Bill knew that people from the Outback lived by different standards than the rest of the world. He realized that Tommy's sense of justice and his deep attachment to his family could become a problem. Tommy would gladly go to prison rather than harm his wife and daughter. He needed facts to prove that Robin was not who she said she was, and perhaps even that Susan was not his daughter, before Tommy revealed what he knew. The first step was to talk to Tommy and get his consent for the private investigator to begin checking Robin's background. Bill then knew that he and Tommy needed to talk to Robin and find out if she really wanted things to go that far. Does she understand what's going on, or has someone just messed with her? I met with the person Sally hired to help me. He was older and very pleasant to talk to. He said I could get into serious trouble and was surprised that they were just keeping me in jail without pressing charges. He also wanted to run background checks on me and Robin. I agreed. The next step he wanted to achieve was my release. He warned that there might be a hearing with the Department of Family Relations because the arrest report stated that Robin claimed that I kidnapped Susan and that I was not her biological father. I told him that was a lie. I was Susan's father. He said that Sally had taken Susan for the last few days, as well as the camera, and that Susan was now here with her father and Sarah. "Tommy, it's time to tell me what happened so we can get you out of here. Your family, friends, and most importantly, your daughter are waiting for you. Tell me what happened," Bill said. "You know, Bill, I think it all started during our honeymoon. Over the past 4 years, things have happened that made me suspect that Robin was cheating on me. I never had proof, and she always found an explanation. I think I believed her because she was so beautiful and kind to me. I loved her and wanted to trust her. Then she returned from some work meeting. I had just gotten a promotion and wanted to take Robin and my cousin Sarah out to dinner to celebrate. Robin said she had to stay late at work. I went to dinner with Sarah, and Robin came back very late. Bill, she looked like a worn-out, easygoing girl, not a wife. After that, I left for a few days to think about our marriage and whether I wanted to continue it. When I returned, I found her in bed with another man. Well, Tommy, I need to talk to her and find out what she's going for. If I can do something to surprise or scare her, we might be able to work things out quickly," Bill said. I told him about the photos on the camera Sally had taken and the hidden photos left at home. "Tommy, I have an idea. Do you mind if I call Sally and ask her to download the photos from the camera and email them to me?" asked Bill. He said that he had a plan, and if everything went as he planned, I would be released before the end of the day. He also assured me that he would help me with whatever I needed. If I want to restore my marriage, he will recommend a marriage counselor. If there is a divorce, he will help with that too. But he gave me one piece of advice right away. Carefully study all the facts, take your time with the decision, and do what is best for me. Tommy, I have a lot to do before my meeting with the judge at 1 p.m., Bill said. He stood up, shook my hand, and assured me that everything would be fine. Then he left, and I was returned to the cell. I just left Tommy's and headed to the motel to call Sally and get copies of the photos. If the pictures turn out to be what I think they are, my meeting with Tommy's wife promises to be interesting. After about 30 minutes, I finished receiving emails from Sally. Now I was heading to Tommy's condominium with my laptop. Mrs. Collins, my name is Bill Shark. I am a lawyer who is trying to help Tommy get out of prison and bring Susan home. Can I borrow a few minutes from you? Asked Bill. Yes, of course. Come in, Mr. Shark. I want to be honest with you, Mrs. Collins. At 1 p.m., Tommy and I will be meeting with the judge and prosecutor. A representative from the Department of Family Affairs will also be there. You argue that Tommy may not be Susan's father, but he insists that he is her father, so the judge may order a DNA test. The judge will want to know where Susan is, and this time Tommy will tell the truth. He will also explain why he sent her to his family, and I will present this evidence. You see in this photo Susan is watching you with another man, Bill said. Oh my God, I didn't know she was there. Now it's clear why Tommy refuses to see me and doesn't want my help, Robin answered. Mrs. Collins, you and Tommy have a lot of work ahead of you if you want to try to repair your marriage. The first step is to release him from prison and then talk to him frankly. You hurt him greatly, and this is something he may not forgive or forget. But Susan needs both of you, and him being in prison doesn't help her at all, Bill said. Tommy must hate me now, Robin said. Robin, do you love Tommy? Asked Bill. Yes, with all my heart. I'm sure you don't believe me after what I did, but I love him. Robin, I've seen this more than once. My job is not to judge. I only ask that you do whatever is necessary for Susan's sake. And one more piece of advice. When you talk to Tommy, be honest, don't hide anything. Answer all his questions, Bill said. Thank you, Mr. Shark. You gave me a lot of food for thought. Tell Tommy I'm really sorry. At 15 to 1, the policeman took me to court. There we had to meet with the judge, social worker, and prosecutor in the courtroom. The social worker, Bill, and I had been waiting for 5 minutes, and the prosecutor had not yet arrived. A few minutes later, he appeared and asked the court to speak. He stated that his main witness refused to testify against his husband and asked that the case be closed. I was released. But where should I go now? I still had questions that needed answers. Bill, can we go somewhere and talk? I asked. We went to a coffee shop at the end of the street. I needed to find out everything that happened and understand why I was free. Bill said it was Robin who pulled me out, and he only helped her a little. He also said that he thinks she still loves me, but we have a lot to discuss. I asked him what the private investigator found out. He said a full report would be ready by the end of next week. In the meantime, he advised me to stop at the motel where Sarah was staying, pick up Susan, and take her home to Robin to talk. I drove to the motel where Sarah was staying and knocked on the door. When it opened, Susan rushed towards me. Dad, Dad, to Mom, she exclaimed. Sarah said the girl had been asking for her mother for several days and was having a hard time keeping them apart. I told Sarah that I would take Susan home and Robin, and I would see if our marriage could be saved. We arrived at our condominium a little later and stood at the door, knocking. Mommy, we're home, Susan called. The door opened and Robin stood there with tears in her eyes. Can we come in? I asked. Yes, Tommy, sorry for keeping you waiting. Please come in. Tommy, I'm so sorry for everything that happened, she sobbed. Robin, we need to talk. We have a lot to discuss, but not now. We'll talk when Susan falls asleep, I said. She came to hug me, but I took a step back and shook my head. Robin's eyes filled with tears. She began to cry, and Susan ran to her. "Don't cry, Mommy. I'm sorry, honey. I'm just so glad you and Daddy are home. You will tell me about your time with your grandparents, who you saw, what you did." They sat on the couch to talk, and I went into our bedroom and started moving my things into the guest room. I just couldn't stay in the room where she slept with Mark. I also moved my shaving supplies into the shared bathroom. I decided that I could live in the same house with Robin for now, but sleeping together and having sex was unthinkable. Now I wasn't even sure if I ever wanted to be with her again. I needed time to think and make a plan. I also promised myself that Mark and Bud would answer for everything. Also, I wanted to do a DNA test on Susan. Tomorrow I will go to the doctor to get a testing kit. I had just finished moving things when Robin entered the room. "Tommy, what are you doing? Why are you moving your things here? I want you to sleep with me. Can't you forgive me? I promise nothing like this will happen again. Please stay with me today and let me give you love. I know how much you miss this." "Robin, I can't. Please don't push me, otherwise I'll just leave. Wait until Susan falls asleep, and then we'll talk. Okay, Tommy, I want you to know that I love you. Please play with our daughter while I cook dinner." Susan and I played hide and seek until dinner was ready. It was a great dinner. Robin seemed to go out of her way to make me happy. After dinner, she gave Susan a bath, and then we read her a story. We acted like a normal family until it was time to put the little girls to bed. I put Susan to bed while Robin made coffee. Once my baby was asleep, I went into the kitchen and found Robin sitting at the table crying. I poured myself some coffee and sat down opposite her. "Tommy, what can I do to fix this mess I got us into?" I spoke to Bill Shark this morning, and he said I need to be as honest as possible with you. I am ready to answer any of your questions. Robin, first let me say what I have to say. You hurt me. No, you killed me from the inside. I would rather die. It would be easier than the pain I feel. And over the past 30 days, this pain has not subsided. I feel empty inside. I don't trust or respect you anymore. And this is not how a man should feel towards his wife. For now, I'll stay in the guest room. I'm not sure what the future holds, but for now, I know one thing. Susan needs both parents. I looked at Robin. I was sure she thought she loved me, or perhaps she really did. I still wasn't sure if she understood what she had done to me. I didn't think she had ever lost anything in her life or experienced pain. She couldn't look me in the eye. I didn't know what she was hiding, but I was determined to find out. "Tommy, I'm so sorry. When I saw the pictures Mr. Shark showed me, I just couldn't stand the thought of what I had done to you and Susan," she said. Do you know what Susan said when I pulled her out of the bedroom? She screamed, "He offended his mother. He offended his mother." You didn't look offended then, but our little girl saw it. How do you like it? I want you to think about this. I also want you to prepare for the next conversation. Think about everything, write it down, and be ready. I want to know everything. How many men have you had? When did you start cheating? How did you meet? Where did you do this? And most importantly, why did you cheat on me? I looked at her and felt something like pity. She looked like a woman beaten by life. Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. At that moment, she looked like a guilty little girl. My heart sank with the desire to hug her, console her, and tell her that everything would be fine. But it was already late, and tomorrow I had a lot of things to do. Maybe after meeting Mark, after I hear what he has to tell me, I will begin to understand if there is a chance to save our marriage. Robin, I'm going to have a hard day tomorrow. We'll talk in a couple of days, but for now, good night, I said. I left her sitting at the table, sobbing, knowing that I needed to try to sleep and prepare for what the new day would bring. The next morning, I got up early. As I walked out into the living room, I heard Robin talking on the phone. I can't come to work and probably won't be able to for some time. I need to try to save my marriage. Yes, I love him, and I will do everything I can to keep him, she said. Noticing me, she quickly ended the conversation. I told her I needed to go to work and see if I still had a position, then meet with Bill Shark and take care of a few other things so I could come back late. The first thing I did was burn the videotape I made the day Robin cheated on me. I didn't even watch it. I just transferred the data to DVD and destroyed it. I then took Robin's address book and headed to the veterinary supply store. I was lucky to find a store that sold what I needed. After that, I went to work and agreed to start working from home from tomorrow. I then stopped by the office of the lawyer Bill recommended and gave him the DVD and copies of all the photographs I had. After that, holding the instrument in my hands, I headed towards Mark's apartment. Luck was on my side. He was at home. I knocked on the door, standing to the side so he couldn't see me. The element of surprise was on my side. When the door opened, I hit him on the head, and he retreated inside. He knocked over the lamp and table, plunging the room into darkness. Mark still managed to hit me in the ribs. I heard a crunch and casually touched my face. I kneed him in the groin, then grabbed a table and hit him in the head with it. Mark lost consciousness. While he was lying there, I looked around. I found one video with the name Robin and another with the name Anna, Jim's ex-girlfriend. I took both. I took off his pants and put the rubber ring on his important spot. If he doesn't manage to take it off in time, he will have a hard time dealing with similar matters in the future. I slowly walked out to my car, took off my sweatshirt and gloves, threw them in the nearest trash can, and drove home. When I returned, breathing was difficult, and my face hurt from the blow. I hoped to get to my room unnoticed, but Robin was waiting for me in the living room. When she saw me, she gasped. "Oh my God, Tommy, are you okay?" she asked. I told her that I was fulfilling an old promise, but I didn't manage to evade it in time. I then headed to my room, saying we'll talk later. When I got into bed, there was a knock on the door. "Come in," I replied. Robin entered. Her eyes were full of pain. "Tommy, I'm so sorry. What should we do? I hurt you so much. Where is the dear, kind man I married? Is he no longer there?" she asked. "Robin, I honestly don't know. I loved you more than any man can love a woman, but everything that happened, I can't just forget. I need answers. I need to understand everything completely, even if it ruins our marriage. I need to know, Robin, I need to know," I said. I looked into her eyes. In them, I saw the same Robin with whom I once fell in love. But I also saw pain for what had happened and what was yet to happen. "Tommy, just promise me one thing. Don't hate me too much. And when all this is known, remember that I love you and always will. I am my mother's daughter, and I would give anything for things to be different. But some things that happened to me were beyond my control. You deserve the truth, but I swear I can't tell it. It will destroy us both." She ran out of the room in tears. Little did I know that this would be the last time we would be so close to each other and be able to express our feelings. That night, I fell into a restless sleep and woke up early in the morning. After taking a shower, I went to the kitchen to make coffee when the phone rang. Apparently Robin, and I picked up the phone at the same time. I was about to hang up when I heard Jim's voice. "Robin, did you know that Mark was beaten last night? He's still in the hospital and will probably be there for a few days," Jim said. "What happened to him, Jim? Do the police know who did this?" "No, Mark didn't see who it was. He was wearing a mask. Police believe Mark's attacker was a large man. Mark is quite strong, but he said that this guy was much stronger and could easily throw him around like a toy. Mark was unconscious for some time. When he came to and called the police, he discovered that someone had tied a rubber band around his manhood, completely cutting off the blood supply," Jim explained. "So he lost his dignity?" "Well, it couldn't have happened to a more deserving person," Robin replied. I hung up, made coffee, and left the apartment. My first stop was to see a lawyer. I collected a lot of information and wanted to discuss it. I also asked Bill Shark to help me with this matter. But first I wanted to see what was on the 2 tapes I took from Mark's apartment. A few hours later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office with Bill, discussing the divorce and what to do with all the information we had gathered. Even without Susan's DNA testing, there was more than enough evidence to divorce Robin if I decided to push for it. The recordings also showed how Robin and Anna were repeatedly drugged with illegal substances and used them. Now I knew that Robin wasn't entirely to blame for what had happened, but there were still some things that bothered me. I needed to sort through my thoughts to figure out what to do next. One thing I knew for sure: Bud, Mark, and the others had to answer for what they did to these women. I think we should turn these tapes over to the district attorney. What these men did to the women was a crime, Bill said. I think I should contact Anna and see if she will apply. We also need to warn her that we are passing this information on to the police so that she is prepared, my lawyer added. I agreed, but asked that copies of the notes be made first. I wanted to show these materials to Robin's father. Mr. Dawson needs to know what his employees did to his daughter and Anna. Then she worked temporarily for his company. I agree, Bill said, but I think you should talk to the district attorney first before scheduling a meeting. We can't let these bastards get away with it. They all deserve a long prison sentence. When everything was settled, I went to work. Perhaps this will help take your mind off your problems. There were several folders on my desk that needed attention. The workload was such that I stayed in the office late, which was fine with me. I didn't want to be around Robin anymore. I decided to spend the night on the sofa in the office. I was woken up by a call from the district attorney. Anna filed a complaint and Jim was called in for questioning. While there, he agreed to testify against the others in order to avoid accusations against him. Volume: just so you know, he confessed his love for Robin and claimed that Susan could be his child. He is willing to submit DNA for analysis if necessary. So, Tom, if you want to meet Mr. Dawson, you need to do it this morning. I'll draw up the warrants and we can serve them at this meeting. 3 hours later, we were already in Mr. Dawson's office. A policeman stood guard at the front door, while others watched the exits. Another officer was on his way to the hospital to see Mark. Tom, what does this all mean? Asked my future ex-father-in-law. I think it's time to let you in on everything. I know many of you were upset that it took me so long to get back to this story, but sometimes events occur that change a person's view of the world, his thoughts, and sometimes his place of residence. And sometimes it takes time to move away from problems, to look at everything objectively, without hatred. I think I'll get a lot of criticism for my decisions in my marriage. But I'm not a weakling. I am the most ordinary guy, an ordinary villager. Now let's get back to the end of this story and what has happened in my life so far. Mr. Dawson, I need to talk to you alone, I said. Tom, I consider you my son. I know that we were not as close as I would have liked, and now there's this problem between you and Robin. I still believe that you can get through this and move on. Anyway, come in and let's talk. I walked in with my laptop in my hands. I hope you'll think the same when we're done, sir. First of all, as you know, Robin and I have problems. I caught her cheating, and I have information that makes me think Susan may not be my daughter. I need to show you something that will help explain everything that happened. I placed the laptop on his desk, turned it on, and pressed play. A scene appeared on the screen where a heavily drugged Robin and Anna were attacked by Mark, Bud, and 3 company security guards. The footage then cuts to a shot of the same men, including Jim, standing around the girls as Mark injected them with the drug, boasting that it would make them the biggest prostitutes. Then he returned to Robin, told everyone that he was going to turn her into a company girl of easy virtue. I looked at Mr. Dawson and saw his anger building. After all, it was his only daughter, my wife, about whom they spoke so much. I told him that the men who came with me were from the police and that they were going to arrest these people. Jim agreed to testify against them for what they did to the girls. Mark has been under guard at the hospital and will be sent to prison as soon as his condition allows. The FBI was also looking into the case, and Mark could face federal charges. I added that the prosecutor had several records that Anna took from Jim, as well as records from Mark's apartment. He looked at me. You knew all this, and you sent Mark to the hospital. I couldn't lie to this man anymore and just nodded. Let's kick the rest of the scoundrels out of my company and out of my sight. With tears in his eyes, he picked up the phone and asked Secretary May to call Leroy, Jamal, Tyrone, and Bud into his office. I opened the door and invited the officers who came with me to come in. A few minutes later, 4 men entered Mr. Dawson's office. "What's happening?" asked Bud. He turned around and saw me standing next to him. Grinning, he said, "Ah, here comes our weakling. You probably told the old man about his daughter who has sex with everyone." When the others started laughing, I rushed at Bud and hit him in the stomach with my right hand, so hard that he flew through the glass window into the next room. A stunned Bud lay on the floor as a police officer came to help him up and read him his rights. "Officers, remove this garbage from my office and company. If you need information from me to put these pathetic people behind bars, I will provide it," Mr. Dawson said. "Tom, will you stay and talk to me?" he asked. After an hour or so, we moved to another office and started talking. I already knew what he wanted to talk about after what happened an hour ago. I knew he wanted to discuss Robin, our marriage, and his grandson. He was so proud of little Susan. In his eyes, she could do nothing wrong, and in mine too. She was a sweet, innocent child. Why should this happen to someone as innocent as her? She didn't ask for this. Her only desire was to have a mom and dad who would love her and take care of her. I, I really hoped I was that dad, but now that Jim said he also slept with Robin, it became clear that Susan's father could have been either me, Jim, or Bud. The other men and Mark were black, so at least the list was short. "Robin, Robin, why did you do this to us?" "Tom, Tom. Hello, can you hear me, Tom? I wanted to talk to you about you and Robin," Mr. Dawson said. "Tom, I know you've known about this for a while, and I'm sure you understand that Robin was tricked and drugged into cheating on you. You need to think about little Susan. I know how much you love your daughter. I also know how much Robin hurt you. And you know I planned for Robin to take over the company one day. But now I don't see this possible. However, I can imagine my brother-in-law running the business. I know Robin loves you, and I'm sorry about what happened, but I think you still have feelings for her. So, Tommy, could you just give her a chance and try to make things work? I admit I wasn't sure about you at first, but after our conversation that weekend when Robin brought you to meet us, and later when I saw you stand up to Mark and Bud at the club when I announced your engagement, I realized that you are the one for my Robin. Please, Tommy, try to save our family." I listened to him for several minutes. I owed him at least that much. Everything he said I thought about over the past few days, except for the offer to take over his company. But I definitely couldn't stay with Robin just for that. "Dad, everything you said I've been thinking about for the past few weeks. When I was in prison, all I did was think. And I admit that I came to the conclusion several times that maybe Robin and I were better off staying together. But I just can't stay married to your daughter. Too much has happened. The problem is not only what happened. One of the main reasons is that she did not come to me for help when she needed it. She has lied to me so many times that I can no longer trust her. And a marriage without trust is not a marriage. I also realized that I didn't belong here and I just didn't fit in here. My roots are at home, and I'll be honest with you. There is someone waiting for me there. She never cheated on me. She was always there for me. She even took care of Susan, loved her, and looked after her while I was in prison. She didn't demand anything from me, but she found and paid for a lawyer to get me out of jail. I'm so sorry. I still care about Robin as a friend, as a past lover. But she killed the love that is necessary for marriage with her lies and betrayals. I saw it with my own eyes, and it is something I will never forget. And considering that Susan might not be my child, and Jim claiming that he loves Robin, and that Susan might be his daughter, Mr. Dawson, it's just too much for me. I'm sorry, but I've already filed for divorce, and now I just want to get this over with and try to get my life back together. I got up from my chair and slowly walked out of the office. As I approached my car, I was alarmed by the ringing of my cell phone. Seeing that Sarah was calling, I decided to answer. "Tom, how are you holding up? I haven't heard from you for several days, and now I'm at the airport. I was wondering if you might want to have dinner tonight," asked Sarah. "I think I'm holding on, Sarah. I just talked to Robin's father. He knows almost everything. He was hoping Robin and I could stay together, but you know that's never going to happen, I said. I was thinking about going to Robin. She must know that I won't come back. And she deserves to hear it from me, not just get the papers through a lawyer. Besides, I have to tell her about those men who drugged and abused her, I said. Tommy, I'm so sorry it turned out this way. If there's anything I can do to help, Sarah asked. Yes, Sarah, I think I'll need some company after I talk to Robin. Can we meet? I asked. Tommy, where are you staying? We can meet there, she replied. Sarah, I don't think I've thought about that yet. Last night, I slept on the couch in my office. Looks like I'll be staying there tonight too. So we can meet there at 7 in the evening, I said. A little later, I arrived at the place I once called home and knocked on the door. Tommy, come in. You don't need to knock on the door of your own house, she said. Robin, I'm sorry, but this doesn't feel like home to me anymore. We need to talk, I said. At that moment, I realized from the expression on her face that she already knew. Our marriage was over. We went into the kitchen and sat down at the table. Tommy, I think I know why you're here. This is the end, isn't it? She asked. But can't you give me another chance? I know I can change and become a good wife for you, she said. Sorry, Robin, but I don't feel anything for you anymore. Hell, I don't feel anything at all, I said. When I said this, Robin started crying. I wanted to hug her and tell her that everything would be okay, but I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Robin, tomorrow I'll come get the rest of my things. But one thing I want to know is why, I asked. Tommy, I don't know. I won't lie to you and say I didn't know what I was doing. I was aware of everything every time this happened. I hoped you could understand if you ever found out. Although, knowing what kind of person you are, I understood that deep down you couldn't. I think it all started in childhood. One day I saw my mother with another man. She always had lovers while I was growing up. I knew it was wrong. I knew that Dad had no idea about this for many years. I still remember the day he found out. He picked me up from school, was going to take me to cheerleading practice, and stay to watch until the end. But the coach got sick, and there was no training. I begged my dad to take me to the mall or somewhere to eat so I could call home. I didn't want Dad to find out, she said. But he found out, right? I asked. Yes, we arrived home, and an unfamiliar car was parked there. I started crying and begged him not to come in. But he came in, and soon the mother was already crying, and the man was running away from the house. Things got very tense. They stayed together, but Mom had to sell 48% of her business in Las Vegas. Her father made her work for his company, and I was supposed to take over for her one day. I guess I was hoping that if you found out, we could work things out too. I admit, before the party where I was drugged, I was only with Jim. But after that, it seems, I became the easily accessible woman those drugs made me into. I probably should have told you about being drugged, but after everything I did, why? She said. Robin, I could forgive and help you get over what happened to you, but I can't turn a blind eye to everything else, the betrayals, lies, and the fact that Susan saw you with Mark. You will soon receive the divorce papers along with my lawyer's contact information. I don't want to see or hear from you for a while, I said. I said goodbye to her and left her crying in the kitchen as I left the house for the last time. Later that evening, I had dinner with Sarah. Talking to her helped a lot. He made me realize that everything I wanted in life was waiting for me at home. She told me that Sally Joe still asked about me and cried when Sarah told her about how I found Robin with Mark and how she was worried about Susan. Sally admitted to Sarah that she still loved me and wanted to be there, become a mother to Susan and give me more children if I loved her and gave her a chance. Tommy, do you still love Sally? Do you still feel something for her? Asked Sarah. If not, talk to her and let her go. Sally cannot live in hopes of something that will never happen. It's not fair to her, Tommy, Sarah said. I was faced with a choice. He was silent for several minutes. Sarah, I think I still feel something for her, I said. Then here's her number. Call her. Please call her, Tommy, Sarah said, and I called. Sally answered almost immediately, as if she had been waiting for this call all these months. I heard her voice, slightly trembling, but warm and joyful. "Tommy, is that you?" she said. My heart suddenly fluttered. Hearing her voice, I remembered everything that happened between us, her smile, the smell of her perfume, her sincere love and support. For a moment, I forgot about the pain caused to Robin, about the betrayal, and about all the difficult months in prison. I realized that I had always felt something more than just friendship for Sally. "Yes, Sally, it's me," I replied. I wanted to talk to you about many things. I was wrong and maybe too blind to realize it sooner. You were always there, always supporting me, even when no one else did." Her voice wavered, and I heard her take a deep breath. "Tommy, I never stopped hoping that you would call," she said quietly. "You know that I love you, and I'm ready to be there for you no matter what happens." I closed my eyes and sighed, feeling the pain of the past slowly fade away. I realized that I no longer needed to make excuses to stay away. Before me was a woman whom I loved, even if I didn't realize it at the time. She wanted to be there for me, to take care of my daughter and our common future. "Sally, I'd like to start over. I know we've had some tough times, but I believe we can find a way to be happy. If you're still ready, if you still want to be with me, I want us to try again," I said, feeling my voice begin to shake. There was silence on the other end of the line, and then I heard her sigh of relief. "Tommy, you have no idea how long I've been waiting for these words. I love you, and I will be there for you no matter what happens. We will get through this together, and I will take care of you and Susan like my family," she said. I felt warmth and calm fill me. For the first time in months, I felt hope for the future. "I'll be home soon, Sally. It's time to start all over again," I answered, feeling my heart fill with joy and relief. "I'll wait for you, Tommy," she replied. We said goodbye, and I hung up, feeling that for the first time in a long time my path was becoming clear. I knew there were still many challenges ahead, but I had Sally and I had Susan. The three of us could become a real family. The next morning, I packed my things and left the office. I headed home to where they were waiting for me. My life, my real life, was starting anew. There was a path ahead full of love, support, and new opportunities. I was ready for this. For the first time in a long time, I felt like everything was really going to be okay. When I arrived at Sally's house, she was already waiting for me on the porch. Love and hope shone in her eyes, and I realized that it was this look that would accompany me throughout life. I got out of the car and Sally rushed towards me. I hugged her, feeling her warmth and realizing that I had finally found my home. "Welcome home, Tommy," she whispered, and I answered, smiling. "I'm home, Sally, forever." Subscribe to our channel so that your love doesn't cheat on you, and go ahead and listen to the next story, because this story is nothing compared to the next one. If you're under 18, don't even think. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one. Click to the next one.